Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at an article from IGN Poland, weirdly enough, and basically it's one of the standard articles that comes out for War Thunder around times of major updates. Basically there's a bunch of different websites where they do kind of, I suppose you call them PR pieces, where they ask the generic questions about, what are your favorite parts of the update? What do you like seeing in the game? And it's just basically a way that Gaijin can get some more information out there about the update itself. But they always add in a few questions at the end, giving us some little hints and ideas towards what we may see in the future. If you want to see the full article, I'll leave the links in the description. It is 2 pages, so make sure not to miss the second one. And also, we'll go through some of the key questions that at least I personally find interesting when it comes to the article itself. Now, one of the things to note before we get into these questions is remember that these have been auto-translated from Polish. So, to be honest with you, the English looks pretty good, but maybe there are some few inconsistencies in them. Always take that in mind. If there are any Polish speakers or readers, it would be nice to see if there are any inconsistencies, so please let me know when it comes to it. The first question we're going to have a look at is talking about the 10th anniversary. It says, this year you will celebrate the 10th anniversary of War Thunder. Are you planning something big for this occasion? I mean, it's a pretty solid question. And the answer is a huge update is coming to the game in March, with all the graphical improvements and loads of new vehicles. This is possibly the biggest update since the new power update in 2020. And on the other hand, the November update, which usually coincides with the game's anniversary, will also be quite big in 2022. We can't reveal our specific plans, but a few surprises are to be expected. So pretty much we're getting the November update being big, and normally the November update is the largest of the year. It kind of sets up the last few updates of the year. Basically, in the past, that was when China was released, the Phantom was released, the MiG-21 was released. You had updates, new ERA or new era with the T-64 and also the MBT-70 and the KPZ-70, adding us into a new realm when it came to War Thunder. It's definitely always been one of those which is huge, and with the 10th anniversary looming, I'm sure we'll see a bunch of events and a bunch of cool stuff going on in War Thunder. War Thunder just keeps getting bigger every year and every year. It'll be interesting to see where its stopping point is, but this year it looks like it ain't gonna happen once again. I remember still back in 2015, 2016, many individuals telling me that this game was dying or this game is dead. Where you at now? The question is also asked, do you have any long-term plans for War Thunder that you could share with our readers? And the answer is, immediately after Israel, a new nation will appear in War Thunder, and it will be a country with quite interesting and original vehicles, especially ground vehicles. Well, that's a surprise. Straight after Israel, the grounded aviation and also some of the helicopter stuff, we're just going straight into another new nation. And hopefully it's a subtectory, because, as I've said before, I don't think War Thunder should have any new independent trees ever anymore. There is too much grinding in the game already when it comes to separate tech trees, and also after grinding out Israel rank 4 and halfway through rank 5 right now, one of the major issues when it comes to playing these new tech trees is they literally don't have crew skills. So playing mid-tier vehicles like you do with the Israelis, such as the M48 or M60, with 0 crew skills basically is absolutely awful if you are a free-to-play player or if you don't invest GE into these things. This is a big problem when it comes to the vehicles themselves. So it's definitely not fun. I would hope that whatever new nation they're talking about here, it won't be an independent tree. If I was going to hazard a guess, it'll be what BVVD talked about last year in the Q&A, where they're looking to add Finland as a subtree properly for the Swedish, even though it's already been, implemented that Finnish vehicles go into the Swedish tree. A proper ground tree would make sense. The problem is Finland doesn't have a lot of original vehicles, so they only really have a few what we'd class as unique, or the rest are obviously the same or very similar to other nations. So maybe we'll see something like Hungary, or maybe we'll see something like Romania. They've already talked in the past that vehicles like that will go into the Italian tree to try and help them out. Remember, the Italian tech tree in general is the lowest populated in the game. The reason for this is many, but at the same time, that means that Gaijin will want to try and bolster it to get people into it. So adding stuff like minor axis nations, such as Hungary or Romania, into the tech trees would make the most sense. So I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see either one of those or something else. We've already seen stuff like the Turans be added to the game in the form of the Italian tech tree. So hopefully you enjoy more vehicles like that. And it will be amazing to see a new nation already straight after Israel, though. It seems like they really are ramping up. They actually talk about it in another comment, which I thought is a really good point. Basically, they go, "We are literally adding more vehicles and types of military systems each year than the typical AAA online shooter in total for the entire life cycle. Our game develops both vertically, combat systems, vehicle types, and horizontally, new technology streams, new vehicles for the nations we already have, and both directions pose great challenges. For example, when we improve the damage model and start taking into account the physical size of shells, it requires us to revisit and recheck all the armor of all the vehicles and ships, where there's over 2,000 of them, and sometimes changes and balances them. This is just one example." So yeah, it's just insane how much War Thunder is ramping. It's been ramping for years now, and we're on probably what our class is year 3, where it's been growing exponentially with the amount of stuff that's being added to the game and the amount of events that's going on. It is absolutely nuts to try and keep involved and to try and understand everything going on. Like this last period of time in War Thunder's history has been ridiculous, and the brakes are no longer on the train. They've disappeared somewhere. Somebody's thrown them off. They're all broken. This train ain't stopping. We're gonna just keep going over and over and over again. It is absolutely nuts. They also field a question about the Polish stuff. So they say, "Anything else you want to say to IGN Polska readers?" And the answer is, we know that many Polish players are asking for a separate Polish technology tree. While we cannot confirm any specific plans, let's say we're committed to finding a way to add all the important military vehicles that actually existed. As you can see, we have found solutions for South Africa and Israel, so there may be a solution for Poland too. Here's your solution. Add the vehicles that you can find for them as events and premiums. There you go. Done. Simple solution, and also add all extra countries as subtech trees of other ones, so it just makes it easier for people to play. We already have Polish vehicles in the game, by the way, stuff like the Garland and also the Polish Sherman, the Trizniek, I believe it is. I also think there is another naval ship which is Polish. I might be wrong about that though. But hopefully in the future we go away from independent tech trees. I really must hammer this point home. I know there's a lot of people out there who really like the idea of independent tech trees. All I will say to you is please go and play Israel right now and go and tell me what your experience is, especially with the aviation. If you've played any of the other tech trees when it comes to the game, especially France and especially America and especially Britain, you will have a horrible time. When it comes to the ground forces in Israel, at least when it comes to the vehicles, they are pretty good vehicles. Most of them are MBTs, which are meta when it comes to War Thunder, but you are missing the supporting elements. You don't always have the aviation that you can bring along. You don't always have the light tanks or the AAs that you can bring in, and it is really annoying. Every time I build a lineup for Israel, I always think, well, with this other nation, I could have this and then something more better to be able to add on to it in the form of a light tank, tank destroyer, or CAS element, which would just make it better to play. So it's actually really hard to turn around and look at Israel and recommend it to people because of that fact, and also because you have to get to a other nation's certain rank to be able to unlock it as well. So you have to play those nations anyway, so why would you switch tech trees to be able to go to an inferior tech tree which is not going to get better over time? This is the major issue when it comes to stuff like that. Also, we have the Leo 2PL, which is, in the game as well. So we do actually have a pretty decent amount of Polish representation. But please, can we scrap this idea of independent tech trees? It's done now. It's really not a good idea. Every proposal that I've seen when it comes to independent tech trees has glaring issues, whether it is having 9 M48s in it or having vehicles which are from the 1920s in it to try and supplement the tree to be useful, or at the same time having a tech tree full of fictional or let's say 50% mock-up vehicles or trainer vehicles like trainer aircraft. Just let's get away from this independent idea and just add them as subtrees. So you can have the unique and iconic vehicles that you want and not have all of the extra garbage that comes along with it. You can always add the garbage later on if you want when it comes to the game. But the problem is, it is putting people off playing these tech trees. The amount of people I actually see playing Israel right now is tiny compared to the amount of people playing pretty much everything else. It's going to be the least played nation. I feel like they've added Israel just so they can stop saying that Italy is the least played nation when it comes to the game. And hopefully everything else gets added into trees that already exist. If not, we're going to have serious issues when it comes to the game and actually when it comes to people playing the new content, because it's going to be impossible for them to be able to get into and have fun in when you're using mid-tier vehicles with no crew skills, and also when you have to face, let's call them broken vehicles, when they get added to the game, such as the Puma. It's not going to be fun, it's going to be annoying as all hell, and you're going to give people a negative experience as they play this new tech tree, so they're going to go back to the actual good tech trees, which are about the place. Anyway, as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Merciless Reaper, Jerry Provolt, Mega Dino King, Professor X1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, Moxie, B. Young, and Derek R., Barine, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.